Today's connected world leaves no room for errors. Neustar reliably secures those connections. Neustar's cloud solutions, which include web application security, DDoS protection, DNS services, IP geolocation, and threat intelligence, ensure network availability across the globe. With over 20 years of award-winning security experience, Neustar proudly enables and protects digital assets of some of the world's largest enterprises. Find out how your company can benefit from the power of Neustar's trusted connection by visiting securityweekly.com/Neustar. Secure your world with Neustar. Always on, ultra secure. When it comes to web app and API security, the choice is simple. You can choose Fastly's security solution that teams will actually use in full blocking mode, just like 90% of their customers. Or you can stick with costly options that you probably just turn off. You can get Fastly's all-in-one platform that protects apps everywhere they live, however they're built. Or departments can agree to disagree. You can go to securityweekly.com/Fastly to learn more. Or you can just wish you had. Searching for the best way to protect passwords and privileged accounts? Thycotic empowers security and IT operation teams to discover, secure, and manage all types of privileged accounts with the fastest time to value of any privileged access management solution. Get up and running fast with solutions for privileged account discovery, turnkey installation, automation, auditing, and reporting tools with Thycotic's free 30-day trial. Thycotic, the fastest growing PAM provider in the market, available both on-premise and in the cloud. Get started today with a free Thycotic secret server trial at securityweekly.com/Thycotic.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. I am your host, Matt Alderman, joined by Adrian Sanabria and Tyler Shields. Our next live webcast will be on April 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern, where you will learn how to prepare for and prevent modern ransomware attacks. Our next technical training will be on May 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. This technical webcast will explore common misconfigurations of Nginx, the damage they could do, and how to avoid them. Also join us May 13th at 11 a.m. for another technical session with Thycotic to see how attackers gain access to endpoints and learn defensive strategies to protect against those attacks. Visit securityweekly.com/webcast to register now. And if you've missed any of our previously recorded webcasts or technical trainings, they are available for your viewing pleasure at securityweekly.com/on-demand. This segment is sponsored by Pixm. To learn more, please visit securityweekly.com/Pixm. Chris Cleveland is the founder and CEO of Pixm, a company that makes AI software to stop phishing breaches and make the web more trustworthy. He started Pixm while a graduate student at Columbia studying machine learning after he won a pitch contest and a ticket to Black Hat. He started his career getting his thesis published and working in Princeton's physics department, where he earned his bachelor's. Chris, welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly.
Pleasure to be here, Matt. Thank you.
I missed your first interview, but I wanted to kind of go back to that interview just a little bit. Paul asked you a very interesting question about why not phishing protection in the inbox, right? We see a lot of different phishing solutions out there. We're going to cover some news on phishing later in the news segment today. And you had a very specific rationale for why you built your phishing protections in the browser and not in the inbox. Give us that background again.
Well, it's a great question, Matt. I think traditionally people associate phishing with email security. But what we've seen, particularly in recent years, is that there's a lot of phishing activity that exists totally outside of the corporate inbox. The way the DNC was breached in 2016 actually came through a Gmail phishing attack. Pixm recently released a threat report for the fourth quarter of 2020, where over half of the breaches that we stopped were social media based. So you're kind of looking in one place where you actually have a lot of threat activity that totally flanks that infrastructure. So all roads lead to the browser eventually, all clicks lead to the browser. So that's why we put our solution there.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting approach because I've seen them, and I know Paul has as well, and I'm sure Adrian and Tyler have as well. You know, we're getting these suspicious messages and texts. We're getting them in a lot of different places than just our inbox anymore. And of course, there's a URL there, and you click the URL. Guess where it's taking you? It's taking you to the browser.
Exactly. We get them in comments on our YouTube videos when we publish these. Yeah, and we have to kill those.
Yeah.
Anywhere you can post a link.
Anywhere. Like you see them in WhatsApp, you see them in the Facebook platform itself. I get text messages all the time telling me about a UPS package that I never ordered, so they're just ubiquitous.
Yeah, they're all over. And so let's talk a little bit about the deployment. You're going to show a demo here in a little bit on how this actually works, but let's talk through, what does a deployment of Pixm look like? How easy is it really?
Well, Pixm deployment is really easy because we work as a browser extension. So what that means is that once you make that deployment, it just takes a few minutes. You can use it using a Windows device installer or an ADMX template. You roll out our extensions across your work devices. You can also very easily install it, by the way, on personal devices as well. You don't even have to update it. The extensions just update automatically. So there's very little device footprint, and the actual deployment itself happens super quickly.
Yeah, and then once I have the browser plugin enabled, it has to point to a backend SaaS service somewhere, right, to kind of do its magic?
That's correct. So the enterprise product will give you access to a licensed device installer. So this is going to install a specialized extension that is going to talk to your private backend so that you can see all of the threat activity and all of the user clicks. And of course, like you mentioned, this is stuff that we can see live in just a few minutes.
Right. Yeah, and then once you have all that threat data sitting in the back end, who's looking at that data, right? We've seen this email phishing like ownership kind of move around over the years. Like IT used to own it because they own the email platform. Security owns pieces of it now with security awareness training and some of the solutions that get deployed in the inboxes potentially. Security operations needs some of this data. I mean, there's a lot of potential personas that could leverage the threat data that's sitting in that Pixm backend, right?
That's right. And we don't put any limit on how many admin accounts you can create with your enterprise account. So you can have everybody from security engineers, IT, even executive leadership if they want to get high-level threat reports about different breaches that Pixm has detected and stopped. And you can also get a sense of what your threat portfolio is, like how much phishing activity targeting my organization is from social media, or how good actually is our inbox security, how many Outlook and Microsoft-related spear phishing emails are still getting into the inbox and clicked. So we make that information available essentially to anyone who needs it, through security, IT, and even people at the executive level.
Right. You want to jump in? You want to do this demo? I want to see it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually a real phishing attack that showed up in my inbox. I have about 15 security extensions installed here in Chrome. And I'll just tell you that 85% of credentials are harvested within the first hour that a phishing attack is deployed. And the vast majority of them have no malware associated with them. So all of these security tools that we're running through here that are either green lighting this site or not giving any alert about it, even though you and I can look at this and in plain sight, we're seeing a phishing attack as clear as day. There's no signals that any of these tools can pick up, because if you're basing your detection on threat intelligence or malware signals or some kind of signatures associated with past attacks, there's nothing in your arsenal that's going to pick it up. So what we just did there was we installed the Pixm extension, we came back, and now we're opening up the same link. And right away, as soon as the page loads, Pixm jumps in, and using its computer vision technology, it can identify, in this case, Bank of America branding appearing on a domain that clearly has no business displaying Bank of America. So Pixm detects and stops phishing breaches at point of click in the browser in real time using this computer vision technology. And like I talked about with Paul in the last podcast, computer vision is just software that can see like people can see. So this is very much like having an AI expert or a security expert looking over your shoulder and protecting your users in real time, even when threats are brand new.
So I want to stop here for a second, because I think this is a very interesting visualization that I want people to think about. You installed the browser plugin, which took you like 2 seconds, right? And had it in, went back to your inbox, clicked on the link, and as soon as that link rendered itself, you identified it as malicious, and then visualized this. I mean, that's a very interesting way. I mean, when we talk about security awareness and the ability to be better at it. You know, we're all told don't click the link, right? But we click the link anyways. This visualization, I think, is really interesting for people to really allow it to kind of hit home. Like, I clicked on that link, and then you see it and you're like, ooh, because I think it makes you better the next time you attempt to go do that, because it was so in your face that you're like, wow, that was interesting. That is a malicious site.
Yeah, and that's really the best time to learn, right? Yeah, like at the point when you click the thing and you've got the context around you. I mean, that's the best time to educate.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I like to discuss this as an augmented reality security product. So when a user is interacting with a malicious link in real time, you actually have the visual reasoning as to why it's a threat or why it's a perceived threat. And at the same time, you're also educating a user about, what kind of links to click on and not to click on in the future. So we absolutely try and build that transparency into our computer vision and AI engine, essentially, so that it's quite transparent and intuitive to end users. And you do have that extra awareness bonus, like you mentioned.
Yeah, because I think when we see it in our inbox, we don't think about it. I know most people don't think about it. I always do the right click to see which domain it's going to, because that's the way I was taught, right? But I mean, for the normal user, it looks like it's Bank of America. They're probably not going to inspect the URL to make sure it's not a bad domain. They click it. This then gives them instant feedback that says, whoa, that was malicious. Look at what I found. And I assume you stop, like if there's a drive-by malware in there, are you actually blocking that in that extension as well? How much protection do you give when that link is clicked?
Today, we're really focused on the lion's share of where these breaches start, which is in credential harvesting. But we're absolutely looking to build in malware capabilities as well, including drive-by downloads, because really the same principles apply, because you can deliver that malware to the browser at point of click outside of the corporate inbox. And of course, there's also stealthy redirects there as well. So we're going to pack as much value ultimately into this extension as possible beyond just what we service today, which is that computer vision protection. We also want to protect end users from drive-by malware as well, for sure.
Right. Yeah, because that's one of the big attack vectors. But harvesting credentials, that's how people get in. We had a pre-record earlier today. We were talking about credentials, and then once you have a toehold, you try to escalate privileges to get into a local or a domain admin, and then you take over the environment, right? So this is the first step.
It's crazy. I mean, your users, obviously, your viewers are very well aware of like how high the stakes are with phishing. But just to reiterate, there was an IBM study that came out about breaches in 2019, and the average cost associated with a breach that involved stolen credentials was $4.7 million. So, if you're in the healthcare space or the government contracting space, and you have access to very, high worth assets, it's like that is a very dangerous thing, even if it starts in a personal account, which is really like tends to be in vogue these days, is popping, an employee's personal account and then, leveraging that to move around and getting access to the crown jewels in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you've got the data at the click, right? You've inspected it. You've identified that it's malicious. What's happening on the back end? Like, what data are you actually pulling then off of this, and how are people leveraging that data as far as incidents and investigations and other types of response requirements?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question, Matt. So, of course, if you sign up for a Pixm account, you get to access real-time threat activity and phishing clicks that your users access, that Pixm detects and stops. And what you're looking at here is actually a feed of actual phishing clicks. So, Pixm detects and stops phishing attacks at point of click, like we just saw. So all of these are real phishing clicks that got past existing email security, any advanced threat protection, any antivirus. They got past Google Safe Browse, any user training that the user may have had. And you can interact with all of this data live right here. You can see the user. In this case, we've anonymized the usernames for obvious reasons because this is a live demo. You can see the type of campaign that was targeting them, what kind of phishing attack it was, if it was a Microsoft, PayPal. You can browse through this data kind of like Google Docs, so you can access the actual screenshot telemetry that the end user saw when they opened up a link. And if you wish, you can really dive in there and you can even access the HTML that was loaded into their browser. So this is really first of its kind real-time browser-based telemetry, which is pretty much impossible to access either at the email layer, or there's some companies that are much more on the offense side towards the attacker origin. Because these attacks have become very stealthy and because they're being delivered around the corporate inbox, it's very difficult to access that kind of screenshot HTML type telemetry. Even the URL itself is likely going to get redirected from what's coming into the inbox. So you're actually seeing, you're actually interacting with what the end user is seeing when they open up the link. And if you're curious about what kind of campaigns are targeting your organization, you can search by user, you can search by time, and you can say, well, let's see, I'm pretty confident about my inbox protection and all the secure email gateways I have set up, but what about all of the things that are going around my inbox? So I can look at Facebook campaigns that are targeting my organization, for example. Like I said, we found that in our consumer data, over half of the attacks that we stopped were social media based, right? So again, these are coming in through the personal accounts, or they're coming in through the Facebook platform itself. Or you might say, hey, listen, I've got all this inbuilt protection in my inbox, but how effective is it really? And I can look at Microsoft-related attacks. And just like I showed you with Facebook, here we can see all of the clicks related to Microsoft. So you can see that even when you have many layers of protection in the inbox, there's a lot of stealthy tactics that hackers can use to still deliver and get it into the inbox and get it clicked by end users.
Or not even the inbox, right? I mean, you talked about social media, right? A link from Facebook, a link from LinkedIn, a link from Twitter, all can be malicious URLs that get clicked on. They never hit your inbox, right? I mean, those are all just different sources. And that's not assuming all your messenger applications, right? Whether it's your SMS or your Slack or, right? These are all things that are outside the traditional email inbox.
That's right. Like we like to say, all roads lead to the browser. So if you can make really good protection and pack it into the browser, make it run real time at point of click, the hackers are out of options to deceive end users and to deliver attacks to them because you're kind of covering. It doesn't matter where you're coming in from. You can always stop it there.
Now you've got a lot of interesting data here. How does this get integrated into like the security operations team, right? They've got their SIM, they've got their threat intelligence sources, they have these other systems in place. You've got some really rich data sitting here because you've got the HTML that's being rendered on the page, some of the malicious URLs. How are people starting to integrate this into their overall security operations center?
We're still building that SIM integration functionality. So you can do that through a syslog, or you can do it using REST APIs. You can get a CSV or a JSON dump just so you can get that real-time access for folks that just want to build it into, integrate it with their existing data feeds. And of course, all that telemetry that we discussed, everything from the URL to the screenshot, you'll be able to integrate that real easily.
Yeah, that's great. Was that your enterprise? Was that the enterprise console? You also have a free offering, I think, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can go to our extension in the Chrome store or the Edge store. We're also in Firefox, and you can just install it for free. So you're not going to be able to see, of course, that threat activity on the back end and do all of these search analytics, but you'll be able to get that real-time protection. Also, one other thing I wanted to show you here on the console, of course, is multi-tenancy support. So if you're servicing multiple customers, if you're an MSP or MSSP, you can hop up here and you can jump to different organizations where you have Pixm installed. So you can get that data separation and access management across your different customers that you're servicing.
That's great. That's awesome. Adrian, Tyler, any questions for Chris? That was a pretty fun demo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of questions. It's something that just it's straightforward and it works. So there's not a whole lot to ask there. I mean, I was going to ask, how you connect it to your organization, but I've actually been running it since the last time you were on the show, and I noticed, I just click the icon and right there it says register with my organization. So
yeah,
not a ton of questions.
And it's actually, that's a cool thing that you pointed out there, because from a deployment perspective, we really focused on doing work-based device deployments. So we have licensed device installers that you can roll this out with. If you have group policy or some other remote management tool, you can very easily deploy this to as many devices as you want. But also, like Adrian pointed out, I've actually got Pixm installed right here in my Chrome browser. There's this register with my organization button right up here. So let's say that you deploy this across all of your work devices. Your employees can actually install the free version on their personal device, and then they can use their work email address to sign up here and register it with your private backend. So just using a basic email verification, our backend will actually register your organization domain and enroll you on a personal device. So you can have both work devices and personal devices. And of course, we see a lot of phishing activity happening on personal devices as well. Like even in our consumer data, 20% of the breaches, almost 20% of the breaches that we stopped for our consumers were Office 365 or Microsoft related. So we really want to make it easy for folks to get their users enrolled on their personal devices.
Yeah, and I think the personal device is the work device now, right? I mean, there's almost no separation for some organizations.
That was the point I was going to make too. Yeah, I think that's table stakes now for any kind of anytime you're protecting an endpoint or an employee for that matter. You can't afford to draw a line between, okay, here's where work happens and here's where personal stuff happens. It just doesn't exist anymore.
That's exactly right. So we really like to make our solution easy to deliver to personal devices. And of course, being in the browser, it's not just personal devices, but people are sharing and accessing a lot of sensitive data on non-work accounts, right? So outside of the corporate email account. So it's all types of accounts, including personal accounts, and it's all types of devices, including personal devices.
Yeah, it makes the whole like work from anywhere scenario on any device really work for a lot of organizations with that ease of deployment and connectivity.
In the office, at home, or on vacation, you can have Pixm installed, and it's super easy. It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, Paul's not supposed to be working on vacation, but I know he has his computer.
Yeah.
We'll send him a test phishing attack while he's in Disneyland.
Yeah. I was actually asking for a test phishing attack on our Discord here because I was going through, like, I have a folder for shady emails or clear scams that I just save so I have some malicious stuff to play with when I'm using these tools. And I was having trouble finding any phishing campaigns that hadn't been shut down. They're all old. But yeah, a few quick questions tying into the browsers. I'm just a little curious about how much of a hassle that is to keep up with changing browser requirements, especially with extensions. Is that a concern? Trying to keep up with, what you're allowed to do in the browser and what you're not, with the development of the extension, or is that pretty stable these days?
Well, browsers like Chrome, Firefox, they give us huge amounts of distribution, right? Because you're talking about billions of users ultimately. But of course, with that kind of distribution comes great responsibility. So they indeed do have pretty strict rules around privacy and security, and those are things that we have to and this is the same with any extension-based product. You have to be very diligent about making sure that you're up to date with all of those requirements. So that cuts across cryptography, it cuts across privacy, and making sure your privacy policy is very clearly stated. So those do tend to change over time, especially as the CEOs of those like Google get scrutinized by Congress. All of that kind of scrutiny gets pushed down to all of their partners like Pixm and other folks that are making extensions. So we do have to make sure that we're compliant with all of those things. At this point, our product is pretty it's pretty stable in terms of the privacy requirements, right? So there's really not much that changes for us from that standpoint. Now, the future is always uncertain, right? So I don't want to jinx myself there. But you can also sort of rest assured too, as a customer, that by using an extension that's compliant with all of those store guidelines, Chrome store guidelines, and Firefox and the Edge store as well, you can rest assured that you have a lot of diligence in place that's making sure that it's private and it's secure.
Great. Adrian, any last questions? Tyler?
Nope.
All good?
That was good. We can't hear Tyler.
Yeah, maybe he's muted. Poor Tyler.
Mute
Chris, You might want to stop your screen share so we can see your face to say goodbye.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on Enterprise Security Weekly.
Take care.
If anyone wants to learn more about Pixm or how to stop phishing attacks, please visit securityweekly.com/Pixm. We're going to take a short break and then cover the enterprise security news for this week.